This is the case of a patient with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy implanted with a single lead ICD and who was hospitalized for a syncope. You can see that 3 zones have been programmed: a VF zone, fast VT, and a VT zone with a limit of 330 milliseconds. You can see the acceleration of the arrhythmia inside the VF zone, the initial detection of the VF, the first shock. In this tracing, we will focus on what happens once this first shock has been delivered. You can see here that the shock has been inefficient, so there is a redetection of the arrhythmia, and the second shock is delivered with termination of the episode. You can see that it is a real very fast ventricular arrhythmia with the initial detection of a ventricular fibrillation, the charge of the capacitor, the end of the charge, and then the first shock is delivered. So at this time, the device needs to determine if the arrhythmia continues or if the shock has been efficient. So there is a second parameter that you need to program, which is the counter for redetection. It is also probabilistic with the same ratio of 75% of fast events, but it differs from the initial counter because usually you program less cycles in redetection than for the initial detection, because here you really don't want to delay the occurrence of the second shock if the first one has been inefficient. What is important to know is that once you have redetected an arrhythmia, whatever happens then, the shock will be delivered since it is committed. So at the end of the charge here, there are 2 options. Either there is sensing of ventricular signal like here, and then you will synchronize the shock on this ventricular signal, or for example, if there is undersensing and nothing is sensed in this time of 900 milliseconds, no signals, then you will deliver the shock asynchronously. Once the shock has been delivered, there are 2 criteria to determine that the episode has ended. You can see here the marker termination. You have this marker because you have 8 consecutive cycles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, slower than the slowest zone that you have programmed. Remember that in this patient you have programmed a zone of 330 milliseconds. These signals are faster, but all these consecutive 8 cycles are slower than the slowest zone that you have programmed, so it determines the end of the episode and then the marker termination.